If you want to eat a halfway cooked Stouffer's dinner, a baked potato, and drink beer with a morbidly obese race car driver named Ken Bob, Yee Yee Motorsports is the place for you. Visit the shop complex with an endless supply of go-kart tires, trip over the extension cords, walk past the air compressor, and straight to the back patio with a used car lot table that hasn't been cleaned in 5 years. After that, stop by the record room and check out their extensive collection of records from local artists you've never even heard of. Then browse through the merch closet where you can purchase one of thousands of overpriced t-shirts. To book your visit to Yee Yee Motorsports, message Ken Bob the Yee Yee Man on TikTok, Lil Jimmy 88 on Snapchat, or Yee Yee Motorsports on Facebook.
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, it was our fault. We made a mistake. Spotter said it was clear. It wasn't clear, and, you know, I didn't want to tear my car up, tear his car up either. I respect everybody, and I demand respect. And, you know, I apologized to the guy when he came over the car, explained to him what happened. And then he took it to another level when he started calling me an idiot and whatever else. And I don't appreciate that. I'm not going to take it. I told him how I felt. I called him out. He didn't show. You know, and so, you know, I'm good with it if he's good with it, but I'm not going to be disrespected by no means.
Yeah, I guess I had a dinner date at Applebee's last night that I didn't find out until it was too late. It's a shame. I love their riblets and boneless wings, but...
All right, folks, welcome back to Meet Me at Applebee's, your number one unrefined motorsports podcast. It's Brien here with Rob and Ashley, and we have... Rockingham. The notes say Martinsville. I'm just noticing this now, but we're at Rockingham this weekend, and we got a murder to talk about. So, folks, how are we doing this week?
Let me change the notes to Rockingham real quick, because that's going to piss me off all night. Not great, Brian. It's been kind of an annoying work week so far.
Yep,
and,
I know.
And it has been for a couple weeks. One annoying work week stretched over 2 weeks, so not great, but definitely happy to be here in this Applebee's tonight with you guys. How you doing, True Love?
I'm good. We're here celebrating Rob's birthday a little early this week.
That's right. Yeah, that is coming up. I was wondering why the flaming cake had come out. The Gen Z server we had just kind of dropped it off and left it, and it was kind of ambiguous and confusing, but that makes sense. I am old. You're correct.
Yes. I do want to say before we start talking about Rockingham, you know, I'm still living off Chase's win from last week since it's Cup-off
Even
weekend.
though you were pissed off about it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy for Chase. But I went to the pool room last Thursday because that's my tradition, is to go take a picture with the sign every time he wins.
Go once a year.
Since 2018, but afterwards we went to the gift shop at the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame, and I ran into a guy there who had driven 17 hours from Oklahoma City to go to the Racing Hall of Fame and then to go eat lunch at the pool room, and he was so excited. And then they were driving to Rockingham after that, so didn't catch his name, but I hope they had fun at Rockingham this weekend.
That's some hardcore super fan shit right there.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Oklahoma is far from everything.
Yeah.
Very far. Yeah.
So obviously the Cup Series is off this weekend for Easter, but we did have some action at Rockingham with both the trucks and ARCA and the Busch Series, and we're going to talk about them. Let's see. So Friday was the truck race, and I got my times wrong. It was actually at 4:30 on Friday, not 2:30, but still a stupid time for a race.
Yeah.
But
perfect time for everybody who gets off at 5 o'clock to make it in time for the last 30 laps.
yeah, I mean, it was a nice day out, and we've had intermittent shit and good weather, so I was spending the afternoon out at the dog park with the dogs, so I was only half paying attention to the first couple stages, but didn't really seem like I missed a whole lot. I mean,
it was the Heim show.
Yeah, which, at this point, if he enters a race and you're not betting for him, even though the odds are always going to be, you're not going to win much, you're still an idiot because, he's probably going to win, which is what happened, but we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
He did dominate the first two stages, which shouldn't be much of a shock. And from what I saw, it was pretty clean. Not that exciting of a race. I would argue O'Reilly's race was definitely more exciting as far as passing and stuff was concerned, but really shouldn't be a shock to see anybody or to see Corey Heim dominate yet another truck race whenever he enters one. But the end was pretty good.
End was killer.
Yeah, Caden Honeycutt, he's on the verge. I mean, he's in Corey's old truck. He's been doing really well this season, getting poles and running up top 5. And, once again, he was doing that again on Friday. And, towards the very end of the race, 10, 12, 15 to go, something like that. That's when they really started to battle. And I would say if they didn't have lap traffic, Caden would have had him for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Because the last, I think, 4 or 5 laps, Corey's truck, he thought he had a tire going down or something because he definitely fell off a bit speed-wise. And there were a couple times where Caden was able to get right onto his bumper and come close to passing him, but the lap traffic was just in the way. And that
he
allowed
kept trying
Corey
that move on the outside.
Yeah.
Which, again, would have worked if it wasn't for New Mexico's own Taylor Gray just parking it right there in the middle of the track.
Which is tough because they're all 3 teammates. So
Yeah, I also have a feeling that if it wasn't, not that I know Caden too well, but I think he's smart enough to realize if he wrecks his teammate to win his first race, it's not going to be a good look. Especially,
teammates. He could have wrecked both of them if he wanted to.
Yeah. Not to mention the fact that, Heim was going to get, what did he get, $150,000 bonus? He's part of that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Got extra
cash in the trash.
this week.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, whatever cash bonus they have going on right now, Heim has now won the first 2 of those. And yeah, it wouldn't have been a good look for him to get incredibly aggressive with his own teammate to win a race, even though he was deserving of the win. But it'll come for him. He'll definitely get it this year. There's no way he's not going to win at some point. But nope. Friday went to Corey Heim yet again. And also Chandler Smith, who was, I think, leading the points going into this race, and he got a top 5 out of it, but after talking about Jesus and Easter in his post-race interview, ended up getting DQ'd afterwards and losing his top 5 finish.
Yeah, little Good Friday miracle for the boys.
which now puts Corey Heim in the lead for the points after only starting 3 of the first 5 races, winning 2 of them. But he is not eligible to compete for the title because he missed the first 2 races. And I guess there is precedent with Grant Enfinger a couple years ago. Something like this happened to where he missed a couple races and they didn't give him eligibility. And not to mention the fact, they're not going to put Corey in that truck. He'll get a bunch more races in that series this year, and I think he's going to compete for points. I don't know what the fuck that means if he's not eligible for the title, but I'm sure there's something to do with owners' points or whatever that will be beneficial to Tricon. But yes, he is the points leader after winning 2 of the 3 races that he started, even though he cannot win the title. So good for him. While I'm not a Heim fan, I'm also not blind of his talent, and he is very good, and he should be in a full-time ride somewhere. We all know that, but he's not.
Yeah.
I just hate the Heim time slogan. That really makes me want to drive off of a fucking bridge.
It's very low effort.
Do y'all have
boring.
better suggestions?
Yeah. No, I don't, but that sucks.
Can't go by Corey because there's 30 of those.
Hyman.
Timon.
Yeah, can't do that. That's even worse. So
Well,
We're on the Corey clock. Speaking of Corey, Corey LaJoy coming in 7th, the best performing Ram truck. And a quick little look at the mini Tyrell watch we have going on here. 25th place. So.
And I don't think we've mentioned Justin Haley once, and he's one of those 4 guys too.
He got 12th out of the deal.
Forgot about him.
Yeah, Justin, one of the only guys to really do much of anything in those trucks. And even that's not very much. But hey, it's a building year. You know, they're driving with a bunch of random shit they bought. So
Yeah.
next year will be better.
And I don't want to give credit to LaJoy, but Matt Weaver did a story about him last week. He definitely has been humbled a bit. Go look it up. It's a very good story. And
Corey LaJoy humbled. On
he's finally gotten humbled, I think, and he realizes where he's at in the sport. And I think I wouldn't be shocked to see him contend for a win at some point in the season, once they get their shit more figured out. But I think he'll be good for that team, and it'll probably be good for his career. And, again, Colleague has a Cup team, and I'm sure they're going to go to Dodge the next couple years. So, if he plays his card right, maybe he can get back into the Cup at some point. But, we'll see how this year goes.
I'm going to pretend you didn't say any of that. No.
It's just to give, listen, as much as I don't like people, I can also give them credit when credit is due. And, got to give him a tiny bit of respect, just a tiny little sliver of respect. So
anyway, my notes were Honeycutt said in his interview that he puked when he got to the finish line from exhaustion.
He did. Which you couldn't tell. Like, it didn't.
I was a little disappointed.
Yeah.
That's not the first time he's done that. You guys will remember his snowball derby victory. They had to bring him out a T-shirt.
I do remember that, yes. So he's kind of similar to Noah Gragson in that sense, just puking too much.
At least Noah pukes outside of the car. This guy just lets it rip wherever he's laying. So.
Also, friend of the program, Kyle Ayala, was working on Connor Hall's truck this past weekend. And they came home with I believe 21st. Came home with a clean truck, so
20th.
Good for them.
Yeah, that's important.
Right
Rob's
behind
favorite driver, Mikey Christopher Jr., had a rough day.
But he still got 23rd. So
did he?
Yes, he did.
Good.
But yes, I was excited to see him in the race. Not excited to see him 138 laps down or wherever he ended up. But yeah, 23rd ain't bad. Second run in the truck, and apparently he's got some more coming up. And I guess I'll be seeing him at Stafford in a few weeks here for the Sizzler. So hopefully it goes better for him at home than it did in Rockingham. That's a tough track to make one of your first starts in a truck, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Rockingham is fucking difficult.
Moving on to ARCA. I watched maybe 10 minutes of this, so I don't have that much to say about it, but
this may as well have not happened. To me.
I watched it.
Over to True Love.
Okay. Well, before I talk about this race, I do want to mention that the ARCA East race at Hickory last week, those viewer numbers came out, and they had 175,000 viewers, which is their highest number in 10 years. So, ARCA East.
That's the Cletus effect.
Yeah, that's the Squirrel McNutt.
Squirrel McNutt, yeah.
You guys, listen. The fucking names got to stop, and the Mick, like, I know it just sounds funnier to say Mick whatever, but like it's stupid. Not to mention that guy's fucking his goatee's died and shit. Fuck off.
All right, McBrien. But yeah, Squirrel was in this race at Rockingham too, along with Connor Hall and Gavin Bichelle. Cletus made a late entry. Also Destiny Spurlock. And my boy Wesley Slimp Biscuit was back. So I was excited about that. They had Allgaier in the booth the first half of the race, and he did great. He was a natural in the booth.
Well, he was on TV recently.
He was. So, it was mostly the Tristan McKee show. I think he started on the pole and led the entire race. But there was a definite issue with lap cars in this race. The speed difference was scary and super dangerous. think there was an incident where Connor Hull got into the back of one that was going really slow, and he was pretty pissed off in his interview.
Which is
talking
fair.
about cars being 5 seconds off the pace and just using it as just to get practice in. Let's see. Squirrel did bring out one caution. I think he spun by himself. Slim Biscuit also brought out a caution when his roof hatch flew off. They just duct taped it back on, so that doesn't seem safe, but it is ARCA, so. Then, Tristan McKee won 2 in a row. Cletus finished 4th. Not by, luck either, not with, other cars wrecking out. I watched him pass cars, so good for him. 4th place in ARCA, where he belongs. One thing I thought was funny.
He'll get there, I think, Cletus.
Yeah. He just needs a whole season in ARCA.
Yeah.
There was one part that I kind of thought was funny was Tristan McKee won. He climbed out. No one cared. He's doing his interview. In the middle of his interview, Cletus climbs out of his car, and the crowd starts losing its mind and really overshadowed this kid that just won the race. But it was the ARCA race.
Perfect.
Yep.
Right before the O'Reilly race.
ARCA. Well, yeah, Wesley Slimp Biscuit in 5th place.
Slimp Biscuit. So very excited to see him back. I think Squirrel finished 9th, and Destiny didn't have as creative a week. She finished 12th.
I didn't realize that was a Carl Long car she was driving. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, 12th isn't bad, I guess. Still top 15.
I think there were
not great, but
8
not bad.
cars on the lead lap, but
Well, whatever.
Looks like 9 laps down for 12th. That should tell you how fucked up the ARCA series is.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to the O'Reilly's race. The train to Rockingham was in full effect all weekend, and they had Kyle Petty greeting people getting off the train.
Yeah.
Which the little bit of pre and post race footage I saw, it seemed pretty entertaining. Kyle seemed pretty happy to be there and was pretty funny the couple moments I saw him.
Big train guy.
I did watch a reel from some account called Break Hard Blog who took the train from Raleigh, and they just kind of talked about it in very general terms, but he did say that on his train ride back to Raleigh that there was a guy on his car who just said winner winner chicken dinner on repeat the entire train ride home. So
well, that person was either autistic or drunk or both.
I was gonna say that's some train activity right there. Amazing.
So this race surprisingly was dominated by Corey Day for the first 2 stages. There was a bit more action in the truck race, more passing and just more stuff going on, which I enjoyed, but it was kind of surprising. I mean, Corey Day got to pole, and not to say I didn't expect him to run well all day, but I didn't expect him to lead pretty much every lap of the first 2 stages. However, this completely shit the bed after the stage 2 pit stops when he did not retain the lead. I think he had a slow pit stop maybe. I can't recall exactly what happened, but he came out 8th or 10th and then was just battling in the top 15. He ended up with the top 10 out of it, but his car was dog shit once he was in traffic. So continuing to impress, and he's definitely, still he's not wrecking people anymore and running well, and he'll get a win at some point, but a little bit of a letdown to see him kind of run so poorly in traffic, but still he's impressing people. Speaking of impressive, Raja Karuth had a very cool pass to get into the top 5 in the 3rd stage, but prior to that, he got into Jesse Love yet again. Jesse had a real bad day regardless of contact with Raja. I think he had problems with his car. I know he was multiple laps down. I don't even know if he finished, but yeah, he and Raja got into it a little bit at some point, and I think they talked again after the race, but Raja wasn't Jesse's main problem that day, so kind of is what it is.
That just seemed more like a racing incident.
Yeah.
They did say that this week, since Cup was off, that Mike Dillon filled in as love spotter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, perfect.
Yep.
Real fucking dream team over there.
One more thing that happened in stage 2 was the booth jinxed Jeremy Clements as they were talking about what a great day he was having in ninth place.
Yeah. Dude, that
going
motherfucker.
on and on. And then
then he spun.
Screen.
He has spun in, I think, every race this season. Every single one.
Yeah, you can kind of set your watch to Jeremy Clements wrecking this year, which is unfortunate.
Which I guess we'll get to this before the finish. But speaking of wrecking, Cletus McFarland, this was his big O'Reilly's debut, and it could have gone worse, but he ended up finishing the race. I think he was 6 laps down. He spun a few times, almost spun a few times. Got a speeding penalty at one point, but didn't wreck the car, didn't wreck anybody else. Finished the race. So they accomplished what they wanted to accomplish in that sense. I mean, yeah, for all the shit we give them, Rockingham is a very tough track to have your first start in this type of car in, and it's so much different than the trucks or the ARCA cars. So you have to give him some credit there, but in saying all that, it didn't get him the clearance to run at Talladega in a few weeks, which, somehow you didn't hear the news before listening to us. He didn't make it. He's
the
not
entire industry releases a collective sigh of relief.
Yeah. So, it's fine. I mean, we've talked enough about Cletus and all that shit. I don't really need to get into it too much, but, he still needs more experience. He's an experienced driver, but being a good driver and a good racer are two different things, and he's still not there yet. And, he needs a few more starts other places. So, good for him, though. He didn't totally embarrass himself, so we'll give him credit there. But, trust me, folks, NASCAR wants him. They want him to do well. He's good for ratings. He's good for everything. But he has to earn that. He hasn't earned it yet, so it is what it is.
He did finish better than Josh Bilicki, who deserves all terrible things. So good for Cletus.
Yeah, also ahead of Kyle Sieg, which you hate to see it, and Sam Mayer, who you'd love to see back there. So, very nice. And Patrick Starpoli, the doctor.
Yep.
the blind doctor. By the way, we talk about Nick Sanchez being completely out of a ride, since we're talking about Big Machine right now. Patrick Starpoli.
We didn't. So I don't know if this is that team or a Ford specific thing, but Ford has no cars in Bristol this coming weekend.
Yeah.
And yeah, while I don't like Sanchez either, his skills,
dude,
he's much more deserving of a ride than a lot of drivers.
Fuck yeah,
and just doesn't have the money and support behind him, and it's kind of a shame. I mean, hopefully something works out for him so that he gets back into some sort of decent ride. But
yeah, that 48 is not a slow car.
No.
I mean, Parker Kligerman's run it and done well. Nick was doing all right in that car, and now we've got the doctor in there. No disrespect, he's had a couple good runs in ARCA and here and there, so he's not the worst thing you could put in there. But when we're getting 34th place finishes and 30th every week, in a car that should be that in yucky Nick Sanchez's hands would be in the top 10, to me that's an even bigger indicator of just how fucked the choosing drivers for money situation is here, even more than Cletus or somebody like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Patrick. I'm sure you're a nice guy.
So yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, one more note I had was there was a funny moment where Jeremy Clements again had another incident, and he went back on track dragging an entire roll of bear bond tape behind him.
Yeah, I did see that, yes.
It was like toilet paper stuck to a shoe.
How embarrassing.
Yeah.
So yeah, this race, kind of swapped with the trucks as far as, it was exciting for most of it. The end was kind of boring. I forget when William Sawalich got the lead, but, nobody was really challenging him at the end, and he got his first victory in the O'Reilly Series. For as many guys have their first victories and get all teary-eyed and stuff, he showed very little emotion winning, and he's a young kid too, and he was just kind of like, yeah, no, this is great. I don't really have much to say about him. I don't have much of an opinion about him. He's just been there. Obviously he's very good.
He's a fucking weapon, but yeah, he is definitely fast.
Yeah, and he's in a Gibbs car, so. A hard track to get your first victory at. You would think would have been one of the more experienced guys, like Allgaier or somebody getting a victory here. But good for him. I don't have anything bad to say about him. He did meet the Pope earlier this year, so that's weird.
Yeah, the booth was trying to make that into a storyline. They were really pushing that maybe he was going to get his first win because he met the Pope and went to the White House in the off season, and it was Easter, so those things had to correlate somehow. So
that doesn't make any sense, but good for them. Good for them for trying.
They were trying.
Yep.
And Allgaier increases his points lead big time.
Yes, yes. Also, shout out to Parker Retzlaff getting a top 10 on the day. Mm-hmm. Also, you got a 9th in the race and also 9th in the points, which is very impressive.
Yeah. That pretty much wraps up Rockingham. Again, there was no Cup Series race, but I have a feeling within the next 2 years they'll get one, even if it's the All-Star race. I think at this point, now with the schedule expanding and changing and all these different tracks coming and going, there's still the conversation to be had about maybe a couple of these tracks that have 2 dates could lose a date. As Darlington's one of their biggest fans, if a date switched, if the spring Darlington race went to Rockingham, I wouldn't be upset. I would say the same thing about either Talladega or Martinsville also, but it'd be very cool to see a Cup race there at some point in the next few years, and I would definitely be there in attendance for it because Rockingham is definitely a really cool track and has a lot of history to it, and it's not like really any other track on the circuit as far as layout or anything goes, so I think they're deserving of a Cup date. So
if anyone's going away, it's going to be Dover, I think.
Well, I don't know about that because the other conversation to be had is geographic locations, and there's still not many races in the Northeast. You could talk about Phoenix, or I think Vegas still needs 2 dates. Phoenix could lose one. Think they'd be fine with that. But again, geographically. But yeah, while I'd be bummed to lose a Darlington date, if it went to Rockingham, I would not be upset. So maybe that'll change in the next couple of years. So we'll see.
To get a bigger train.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 2 trains.
2 trains.
So there's no fantasy league to talk about this week because that wasn't happening. So on to general news and notes. Let's see. Starting off with, well wishes to Dave Marcus. He had surgery this week to remove some hardware in one of his legs so he can get a knee replacement later this year, and that went well from what I heard, so he seems to be doing fine, so very good to hear.
Very good to hear.
Hardware from a wreck at Daytona. So
yep.
His knee replacement will be in July.
Yeah. I don't know. Somebody else can start. Somebody else can start this topic. Yeah. I don't want to start the topic though.
So how about this? I'll get it kicked off and you can take over. So if you haven't been under a rock on the internet anyway for the past week, you've seen the name Figgy Earnhardt thrown around.
Well, since Sunday is when or Saturday is when it started.
Feels like it's been around forever at this point. It's reached the upper echelons of NASCAR media. I bet you that's going to get mentioned by Mike Joy come Bristol. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's everywhere, and there's no way to say this any other way. Our friend Brien here was instrumental in helping getting this kicked off and out into the universe.
I guess you could say that.
Now there was a Reddit post, and
so I was, as I'm watching, any race I'm watching, I'm usually farting around on social media because it's what you do watching races. And I hopped on Reddit during the O'Reilly's race, and I just saw this post that it had just been posted, and I thought it was funny. And it was Mandela Effect, Figgy Earnhardt. And let me read the post here. Yes, I distinctly remember Dale Earnhardt having an additional son named Figgy Earnhardt alongside Dale Jr. and Kerry. One of my other friends also swears he remembers his son. And I just thought it was funny. Like, I didn't think much of it. The guy who posted it, his name was Paul Feces. So that should tell you this is a shit post. And it was in the NASCAR Reddit, like the NASCAR proper Reddit. And I just thought it was, I thought it was funny enough. Like, just one of those goofy things. And I just went and screenshotted it and posted it on Twitter and said, every once in a while, Reddit's pretty great. And I didn't think much of it. And within like an hour, my mentions were just getting blown the fuck up. And I was like, what the fuck? And this got huge. People were doing all sorts of memes. People were superimposing Charlie Kirk's face on Dale Jr.'s face and doing all sorts of shit. And like as of this recording, my tweet is at 1.1 million impressions, which that's one of my bigger ones at this point.
It's been mentioned in Whiskey Riff's coverage.
Yeah.
It's been mentioned on the Dale Jr. download. Dale Earnhardt Jr. would neither confirm nor deny Figgy's existence.
Yeah. It's funny, but it's not that funny. Like I definitely think it took on a life of its own. But yeah, I am at least somewhat to blame for getting this into the racing world's consciousness. So sorry, or you're welcome, depending on how you feel about it. But it happened.
Yeah, pretty incredible how big that got.
Yeah, we'll see how we feel about it when it's still everywhere in like a month and we're over it.
I would hope it's gone within the next week.
Yeah,
but
and you can get.
I feel like he'll still pop up every now and then.
Yeah, I would bet. I'd like to see the Kalshi numbers on this, but I bet you Mike Joy mentions Figgy Earnhardt at Bristol. Mm-hmm. But you can log that one, and that'll be the death of the joke, and it being funny anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can get 90% off your next purchase at Speedway Screens by using the promo code Raise Hell Praise Figgy.
No, that promo code does
90% off. It's a hell of a deal, folks.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
we mentioned Talladega coming up in a few weeks. There was news that came out today that Talladega is switching up their stage lengths. They didn't post like an exact swap or exact numbers yet, but basically, if you pay attention to any of the series, you'll notice that, the first two stages are usually the same length, maybe a little bit different, but always the third stage is the longest. And they're going to switch this up for the April races and do the first stage is going to be the longest, and then the second two stages are going to be around 50 laps. They said probably not long enough to go a full stage without having a pit. So this should hopefully combat some of the issues that they've been having, especially in the Cup Series with people, saving gas and cruising around at 2/3 throttle. So hopefully that makes the racing better. Who knows if it will, but it's something. So, got to give them credit, I suppose.
Same.
Yeah. Let's see. There was also an update. I know we talked about this last year when it got announced, but the AMC drama series Thunder Road, starring Dennis Quaid, is set to start filming later this year, later this summer. from assuming a 2027 release. So I'm very excited about this. If you haven't been paying attention to the show this season, we've been watching a lot of motorsports themed
whole lot of
TV shows, and that might be continuing later on if you continue listening to the show. But I am all about this. I love dumb dramas involving things I like. So I'm very excited to watch this.
I don't know how I feel about Dennis Quaid, but we'll see.
Yeah, same.
From this news getting announced, I didn't know this, but apparently Dennis was also slated to star in a big budget film about Richard Petty and Lee in 2002 that never happened. So I guess this is him coming back around on that.
I feel like that's probably for the best that never happened, because, like, listen, I mean, we know Richard's the king and all that, but, like, is his story that dramatic and crazy?
Yes.
You know, compared to... I don't know about that.
Absolutely.
Focusing on his diet alone would be a whole half hour.
That's fair.
I just imagine the table reading, you know, Richard reaches into bowl of hot dogs, pulls one out, snaps through skin with teeth. It'd be great. Yeah, I'm excited for this too. AMC, of course, has put out some pretty incredible TV shows.
Yes.
Including the best of all time, in my opinion, the Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul series of television programming, which I enjoyed very much. And I would expect this to hopefully be, I mean, I don't know, it's not a, I wonder who it's based on. I'd be curious to find out who it's based on. I guess we'll find out when it comes out. But yeah, I'm excited for this. Could be good.
Yeah. Speaking of television, though, I see there's a Meemaws soap note here. So
yeah, this one will be real quick since we didn't have much going on. I just wanted to briefly talk about one of my favorite soaps at the moment, which is Love on the Spectrum on Netflix. And I mention this because their new season 4, dropped last week, and of course I already binge watched it. But for those of you who haven't watched the show, the basic premise is they find autistic people who are looking to date, and then they have this lineup of main characters, and then they set them up on random blind dates with other people who are also autistic. And the levels of autism range pretty widely. But last season, one of the main characters was this girl named Madison, who is obsessed with American Girl dolls and making bead bracelets. And they set her up on a blind date with this guy named Tyler, who we didn't get to learn much about him because he was just kind of one of the blind dates. But when he rattled off his interest, he said he loved NASCAR. So I was a little disappointed last season that they didn't dive into that further.
Yeah.
But this season, Tyler and Madison are back, and they're still together. And on this season, on one of the episodes, we got to take a very brief glimpse into Tyler's room where he showcased his die-cast collection and rattled off a bunch of NASCAR facts. And that made Madison very excited to hear him nerd out on NASCAR. So,
who is his driver?
He's a Kyle Larson fan.
Okay.
I only know that because on social media I've seen him wear a Larson jacket a bunch.
Wasn't RJ, was it?
No, it wasn't RJ. Tyler's he's a pretty big boy who always wears a cowboy hat and partakes in singing country music. I think one of the things that bonded them, they both really loved 90s country. So I won't spoil how their season ends for those of you who haven't watched it, but I do highly recommend, if you're going to watch Tyler in his NASCAR bedroom, to go back to last season where it first started and watch how their story begins and the first time that Tyler meets Madison's parents. Because, it's a lot.
Duly noted.
Also, his catchphrase that he says all the time is, "Oh yeah, baby," So
This guy's me.
I love this show. I love the show. It's very wholesome and precious, and I cry probably every episode, but I also have to pause it a ton because there's so much awkwardness to like an insane degree that I have to pause it and like kind of process what I just watched a lot. So
Sounds like
yeah, we got
TV custom
the
made for
NASCAR
you.
fan.
Well, speaking of television,
Yes, continuing the NASCAR and TV talk. So, Malcolm in the Middle, the reboot, is debuting this weekend on Hulu. And wouldn't you know it, Malcolm himself, Frankie Muniz, is driving a Malcolm in the Middle sponsored truck at Bristol this weekend.
Yeah.
Funny how that works out. Wonder who got him that sponsorship.
has that ever happened where a driver's own television show has sponsored the car they're driving?
No. I mean, it was Mikey going to sponsor his own fucking car? Like, what? I don't think it's ever happened before. So
Yeah, this is kind of the closest thing I could think of was Marty Robbins. Of course, that's not television; that's music.
Yeah.
But he would sponsor himself, and yeah, I went down a wormhole here, and lots of actors and musicians turned drivers. Vince Neil being my favorite one, but yeah, none of them sponsored themselves. So I don't. This is definitely a little piece of NASCAR history here, and that truck is ugly as sin, but that's okay. Hopefully Frankie can get a top 20 or something.
I don't foresee that happening. But
Bristol.
yeah.
The toughest racetrack of the year.
Yep. Well, speaking of Bristol, also a couple notes. Carson Ferguson.
Yeah.
From the dirt late model world. He's going to be driving.
The true winner for the race for the seat, or whatever the fuck it was called.
He's going to be driving one of the Colleague free agent trucks, the 25 at Bristol. And as of right now, well, not going to change, but there are 7 Cup drivers in the Bristol truck race. I mean, I know Hocevar's one of them. Chase Briscoe's one of them. Who else?
Yeah. Briscoe, Bell, Kyle Busch, Chastain, Hocevar, Stenhouse, and Suarez.
Yeah.
So also further hurting Muniz's chances.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it'll be a fun race on Friday for sure. So we'll be watching.
Yeah, very excited for Carson Ferguson. Of course, super dirt late model driver, or dirt super late model driver, excuse me. Definitely a little surprised to see him get to that level, but he's certainly talented, and especially after what we saw on the reality TV show he was on, I think it's definitely a good idea to put him in the truck. He probably, again, should have won that contest over who ended up winning it, but again,
Yeah.
I don't make the decisions when it comes to who gets NASCAR rides and who don't. So
Well, yeah, that pretty much wraps up news and notes. So this brings us to Darf of the Week, and this is actually one that I found. It was a pretty easy winner once I sent it to everybody. So our old pal Matthew Weaver, he's a NASCAR reporter, and he reported from Martinsville. Denny Hamlin, again, he had a great day and didn't win the race, but he scored the most points out of everybody, including Chase Elliott. And, when writing his story about this, somebody replied, a guy named Helmut Schmiedelbauer, scores most points, only 1 point more than Chase Elliott. Misleading headline again. And Matt just quote tweeted that and said, "Do words not have meaning?" That's it, Your punishment, Helmet, is to completely redo your entire math education career, starting from first grade or kindergarten or whatever, because clearly you don't know how math works. So,
or maybe just start it for the first time.
yeah.
Give it a shot.
Yep. Classic.
Yep. So that wraps up Darf of the Week, and probably a pretty shallow dive into the septic tank this week because there really wasn't that much going on. So, Rob, over to you.
Yes, yeah, kind of a shallow weekend. First off, I want to start off the septic tank with a quick apology. The list of races I rattled off last week, again, been a busy couple weeks at my day job, and I did not read the dates on the calendar, and the World of Outlaws, neither series were running this weekend as I had promised, so you'll get to hear those races announced again at the end of the segment. But there was some racing that went on. Actually, pretty much everything I mentioned ended up getting rained out. I know I talked about Paragon happening at USAC. That got rained out. They did run. Justin Grant picked up a win. That was cool to see. I forget where. Red Hill is where they were at. But first, this weekend I didn't really get to watch a whole lot of racing because it was my first day on the job, learning how to essentially be a broadcast producer up at Claremont Speedway. Went up there and met Tony Stevens from Pit Road TV and got acquainted and started setting up all the cable and get everything routed for the booth. And there's also a test and tune going on, so it was a perfect opportunity to kind of learn on the fly on how these broadcasts are put together and what my job will be, which is essentially I'm literally a producer. I'm putting the ads up, I'm running timing and scoring, I'm making everything go smoothly. If there's a red flag, I tell the camera guy through a walkie-talkie to point it at the sky and don't point it at the ambulance. You know, all that sort of stuff, which is exciting, very intimidating. And I gotta say, for all the shit I give the Fox guys, that's a top-level broadcast, I understand how difficult this is now. Even with a simple one-camera broadcast, what it takes to put on one of these shows for people, whether it's on Flow Racing, whether it's on Pit Road TV, who I'm working for, or all the way to the top level. It is not an easy business to put together compelling television and make it as seamless as you see. So shout out to everyone who works on that side of it. Again, I feel like they get more heat than praise often because you never get applauded for doing a good job. It's only when you miss something. And I can now see why timing and scoring gets fucked up once in a while because it's a whole process. But yeah, very excited to get back to Claremont in a couple weeks for the spring fling and test my mettle and sort of have a trial by fire situation with me and whatever strange cameraman they've decided to give me because I haven't met him yet. So, but like
exciting.
I said,
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful facility. It's a pretty classic New England racetrack, kind of set into a valley. A lot of racetracks, especially up north, New Hampshire, Vermont, they look kind of like Thunder Road. You know, it's a hole in the ground. There's a lot of grass. Just a really cool facility. Claremont's been in operation since I believe the 1940s, so it's been there a while and it's got stories, and I'm excited to learn what those are. And yeah, if you want to check it out, Spring Fling, April 18th and 19th on Pit Road TV, and I'll be the guy running whatever ads they have in between heats. So, but anyway, like I said, didn't get to watch a whole lot of racing, but I did catch a little bit. I did get to watch the embarrassment at Dominion, of course, the Smart Tour going in and proving to everybody why or I don't know if it proves anything, but it just proves that the northern guys know how to drive better than the southern ones, apparently, because that was an absolute fucking mess. Carson Lofton on the pole, which I was excited about, and he led every single lap. Seems like a common theme for the week in racing. But yeah, Carson Lofton whooped their asses. But yeah, I think there was like 10 or 11 wrecks in this, and the feature took over 2 hours to complete. It took so long to complete, in fact, that they had to do a mandatory fuel stop. No doubt these folks had watched the Cars Tour race at Wake County and decided that they weren't going to have the same thing happen to them, and so they brought everyone down for fuel. And yeah, definitely a mess. There's a reason why I don't watch as much as the Southern modified stuff as I do the stuff in my backyard, and it's not just because I can drive to it easily. It's because the racing is cleaner and better up here, in my opinion. That's why Matt Hirschman takes home big paychecks. I know there's people listening to this who might disagree with me, but I don't know, man. I'm going to go to Thompson this weekend in the modified race. The NASCAR mod race is going to be an absolute horror show as a result, but I'll eat my words when I have to.
I hope so.
But yeah,
isn't Lofton running the Cars race this weekend?
Yeah, he'll be at Nashville. As well as Dale Earnhardt Jr. I was going to say as long as Dale Earnhardt Jr., but as well as Dale Earnhardt Jr. And, of course, all the other stars and cars of the Cars Tour. That's a hell of a sentence for you. But very jealous that you get to go see that. I'd love to see the fairgrounds in action, especially with Dale Jr. I bet you the grandstands are going to be nice and full for that. And it sounds like that racetrack is becoming, or the ice it sits upon is becoming thinner and thinner with each passing week. It sounds like the owner of the soccer stadium, we talked about this last week, but it sounds like there's even further movement in getting that place eventually shut down, which would be an absolute travesty if it did happen. But like I said, very much looking forward to hearing True Love's tales from the Nashville Fairgrounds next weekend.
Yep.
And getting to watch
go back.
Carson Lofton, and I believe the Nelson Motorsports car. I think he's still running for Nelson. Anyway, moving on to the dirt side of things, the Spring National Series had 3 events throughout the weekend. Dale McDowell picking up a win at I-75. Love to see that. Rough track conditions, but Dale was able to get it done because he's a dog. Hudson O'Neill in the Rumley 6 picking up a win at White, and also Brandon Overton getting a win at Tazewell. The Nippy 50, the only dirt late model race that I mentioned that was actually supposed to run last week, that got rained out due to threat of weather. So, yeah, I told you guys to watch a bunch of stuff that didn't happen. Kind of a sad note here coming out of Williams Grove in the Pennsylvania sprint car world. Anthony Macri had a pretty nasty spill at the Grove on Friday night, I believe, fracturing an L4 and L5 vertebrae. He's out for an indefinite amount of time. It's a pretty serious injury. It sounds like he will recover, but it's going to be a long time for him. I am by no means an Anthony Macri fan. I've talked plenty of shit about the Concrete Kid on here over time, but I don't want to see that happen to anybody. And he was having probably what looked like was going to be a career year as far as success is concerned. He'd already won a bunch of stuff down in Florida and it was probably going to light him up this year in the Pennsylvania tracks and pretty much be the king of the posse from what I gather in 2026, but unfortunately he'll be sidelined. So thoughts and prayers to him. Hopefully he's back sooner than later. But yeah, what I gather, it's a similar injury to what Tyler Courtney and Brad Sweet both had last season, and that set them out for quite some time. And yeah, you can't just get back in a race car with a broken spine. So yeah, thinking about you, Anthony. Lots of racing coming up this weekend. Of course, we already talked about the Cars Tour at Nashville Fairgrounds. Cannot wait to hear True Love stories about it. World of Outlaws will be at Peevely, which you've heard last week, but that's actually this weekend, Thursday through Saturday. World of Outlaw late models at Farmer City for the Illini 100. Go say hi to Kyle Armstrong at the Simpson trailer if you're there. He's going to be parked there selling Hans devices and hoodies to all the racers and Darfs alike. USAC's going to be at Lawrenceburg and Terre Haute. Got a pretty cool pavement sprint car race at Five Flags, the race for the million. That's a $1 million total purse. I think the winners for each feature take home $30,000, which is still a fuck ton of money, but nobody's winning $1 million, so that's a little bit of a misleading name if you ask me. Now, the Smart Tour is going to go to Hickory and see if they can improve their reputation after last week. And, of course, my favorite event of all, the Icebreaker at Thompson. I will be there on Saturday and Sunday for both the Tri-Track and NASCAR modified shows. This is essentially the kickoff for racing in New England and one of the few opportunities this year that I'm going to be able to have to sit there and just drink beer in a lawn chair. So very excited about that. So if you happen to be at Thompson, come out and say what's up to me. And we'll go wave our shirts around our heads for Austin beers. That's it for the short track septic tank. Again, shout out to Carson Ferguson for his big truck run. I'm going to be pulling for him on Friday night. Cannot wait to see him wheel that thing and maybe get a 12th place finish out of it, because that seems to be all those Ram trucks can do. And we'll go ahead and flush this sumbitch down. What do you say?
A fun little note there at the end.
Powerful septic tank.
Well, that brings us to the Video of the Week segment. And this week, we were watching Diagnosis Murder. Murder on the racetrack.
Murder at the finish line.
Murder at the finish line. So
Wasn't on the racetrack.
That might be the funniest fucking segue we've ever had on the show to me. I don't know why.
Before we dive into it, we all love this. This was very fun and very stupid, but wonderful. I very much
It was one of
enjoyed
those that's so bad it was great.
Yes, very much. So I mean, I don't have much of a history of this show. I feel like you guys both do. So if you have anything to say about the show itself before we get into the actual episode, feel free to do that.
I had never watched it before. Rob had.
Yeah, it's a Dick Van Dyke show that my mom loved, and that's pretty much all I have to say about it.
I mean, Dick Van Dyke, I guess, was a doctor or a surgeon or something.
Yes.
Like, I was trying to just figure out the general layout of this show.
It's a very
while
convenient
watching it.
cast of characters they have here.
Right.
There's a smart old doctor and his cop son, and then there's another woman there for some reason. Is she a lawyer? I don't know, but she helps.
I think she's a doctor too.
And then there's a young guy who's there who might also be a cop or a doctor. I have no
I think
idea.
he's a junior doctor or something. Yeah.
It definitely
There's-
took me a minute of watching because once we got into the the murder mystery of it, I was like, why are these doctors solving a murder crime? But then I figured out the son's
Yeah.
Cop.
job. But
And also a
I was
former midget
confused for a
driver,
minute.
apparently, according
Yeah.
to the setup here.
So yeah, it starts off like the episode starts off with they're just at, I guess, Charlotte, I guess is where they were at
They're in a
originally.
lot of places.
Yeah, there are a lot of places.
A lot of different eras.
But so Dick Van Dyke's son, Steve, who is the cop now,
Also,
and then
his
the
real
other.
life son.
Yes.
That's it. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. And there's also the junior doctor, whatever, that's at the racetrack with him. So Steve is the son, and he apparently used to be a race car driver, and he never made it past midget cars and short tracks. And he said the spoils of being a race car driver, the girls and the money and the fame, weren't for him. But they're at this race anyways. And they end up meeting a kid who is the show car driver of this NASCAR team. And, NASCAR in big quotes here because the car that is featured on the show is very clearly like a late model and not actually a NASCAR stock car. But he runs into this kid that he hasn't seen in many years, and he's the show car driver for this team that is the main driver is a guy named Matt Thompson, and Matt Thompson's a real dickhead. He's just a dickhead to his crew. He's a dickhead to the show car driver. He's a dickhead to every single person he runs into every second he's on screen in this show. And so they're at the track and they're doing qualifying, and the car that Matt Thompson is driving is very similar to Rowdy Burns's 51 car from Days of Thunder, which works perfectly for the minutes and minutes of footage they stole from Days of Thunder for this episode. There are multiple times. I mean, obviously, if you're listening to the show, you've probably seen the movie, and you'll know every second of Days of Thunder footage that is in this episode. Multiple times too. Like the car itself, like the car in the show, it says like the team's name where Exxon would be on Rowdy's car, but they still cut many times to just clear shots of Rowdy's Exxon car on the track, which is very funny to me.
This episode was filmed in 1998, and I was
Yes.
very confused when Bill Elliott's 1988 car made
Alan
on screen.
Kwiecki's Xerox cars in there, like all sorts of cars. Don't make any sense being there. So they show qualifying, and in qualifying, this kid Matt Thompson's car, first his brakes fail, and then his motor blows up, and he ends up like spinning in front of some hay bales, which we all know there's hay bales at every NASCAR
The
track.
famous Charlotte Motor Speedway hay bales next to the giant hill on the backstretch.
And somehow this ends up leading the driver to go to the hospital, which he doesn't even fucking reckon in the hay bales, so why he needed to go to the hospital is beyond me. But they go to the hospital, and the driver's fine, but, the motor's blown, and the crew chief drops this line, tires, trannies, you name it, it's let us down, which can't say that today.
I will, before we get too far into this, we do get to see our first instance in this opening stanza of the car flying by at speed within feet of the guys on the pit wall. So
Yeah.
thought that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do that anymore either.
So the whole team and the car owner, which the car owner is a woman that I guess her husband used to drive the car and own the team, but he had died a few years prior. I forget exactly what he died of, but he was on blood thinners, and they mentioned that, and that becomes a plot point later on in the episode. And this is when we first see Dick Van Dyke, and he's greeting everybody and whatnot. This driver is a dickhead to even the doctors, but he ends up getting cleared to drive on Sunday. He accuses his team of sabotaging him. The junior doctor, who has become an overnight NASCAR fanatic and has spent all sorts of time researching shit on the internet about NASCAR, and he's talking about Matt Thompson's stats, and he goes, Fireball Roberts would die for these numbers. And then Steve goes, well, Fireball Roberts is dead. So that got a laugh out of me.
Yeah. Like throwing in a dead joke.
Yeah, big race that they get to, though.
Yeah.
Live from the Charlotte, Phoenix, Darlington Motor Speedway.
Yeah. So the whole hospital crew gets pit passes to this race from the team for taking care of the driver. We get a guest appearance by Tommy Kendall, who the junior doctor first mistakes for Jeff Gordon, but then he asks for his autograph anyways, and then Tommy Kendall goes, and we'll introduce you to Jeff. And then later on, the dude comes back with all sorts of merch and autographs and shit.
By the way, that's the closest we got to any real connection to racing in this entire episode.
Yep, that's it. 30 seconds of Tommy Kendall. So, this is race day, and they're about to start the race, and nobody can find Matt Thomas, who apparently, this is his thing. He ends up showing up to the races late and kind of making a scene of it. And he basically ends up getting in the car, fully suited and helmeted and everything, seconds before they're about to push off and start the race. So he just jumps in the car, and nobody really thinks much of that. Just, yep, that's how it is. Just you get in the car, fully suited up and ready to go. And let's see here.
Also, right before this happens, this is the first instance of a very confusing occurrence throughout this video of the week. I'm assuming this is to keep it from getting taken off of YouTube, but they just will randomly put little 3-second clips of other Diagnosis Murder episodes in here to throw off the bots, I guess, that would crawl this and get it taken down. But it really throws a wrench into the flow of the show, and it confused the fuck out of me for the first 10 minutes. Eventually you get used to it, but just, be prepared if you haven't watched this yet.
Yeah, if you take your eyes off the screen for too long and look back, you'll definitely get confused. There was one scene that popped up randomly that had the Malcolm in the Middle dad on there.
Yeah.
Yep. So while the race is beginning, the Dick Van Dyke and the doctors are in the owner's suite with the owner, who she's in the process of soliciting a new sponsor for the team, some like Spanish team or Spanish sponsor. Nobody speaks English, so they're just watching the race up from this booth. I think 17 different tracks get used for this montage here. Again, all Days of Thunder stuff. The dude, Matt Thompson, he's having problems with the car again. He ends up pitting, and the crew at this point notices that like some of the lugs were fucked with, which that was kind of weird. But they still change his tires and put him back on the track anyways. He ends up like doing well and making up time, and he ends up getting in the lead. He misses a wreck. There's more Days of Thunder footage. He gets the lead back and wins. But at the end of the race, like after the cool down lap, his brakes fail. He ends up wrecking. But odd that the audio sounds almost the same as the incident he had the day before in qualifying. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, write that down,
he ends up
folks.
winning. He ends up winning the race, and then he wrecks yet again in the hay bales, and he gets out of the car and crawls over the hay bales and collapses, and then a couple minutes later, the safety crew comes and finds him, and he's dead. So he just has this very minor wreck on the cool-down lap and dies afterwards. And they just immediately call him, like within 2 seconds. It's like, yep, he's gone. Like, okay, that's not how that works. So then we cut to a shot after the commercial break. Dick Van Dyke and this lady doctor and his son, they're all in the ambulance with the corpse, not in a body bag or anything, just looking over this corpse. And he's like, oh, he has a hemorrhage. This is a collision accident. And the doctor is like, bad brakes in a race car? That doesn't seem like an everyday occurrence. Well, yeah, it happens more often than you'd think, lady.
Never seen ARCA before.
Yeah, exactly. So this leads Dick Van Dyke to call this a murder, and then he goes down to the crew, and everybody on the crew starts accusing each other of causing this to happen. The car is impounded. Forensic investigators found there were a bunch of things tampered with the car. Dick Van Dyke is very skeptical of the crash being what killed him because, again, he died of like a cerebral hemorrhage, and his helmet was fine. Like, it wasn't really much of an actual accident, so it doesn't make any sense as to why he would have died. Steve, his son, gets a bunch of race tapes from the car owner. Yeah, just a cabinet in the suite of all these race tapes. The team plans on racing next week, regardless of all this shit happening, but none of them are really cooperating with the investigators here. The crew chief, he's very pissed off. He doesn't want the cops to screw it up for him. This is his first year as a crew chief, and he's wearing a shirt. So I didn't mention too, the crew has these shirts, and every single sponsor is like an actual NASCAR sponsor with like a couple letters off. There's like Bosch, but it's spelled like BOSSH. Yep. There's like STP, but it's like SPR. Valvoline, but it's Valvoline. Like, it's
Goodyear's Good Hair, which I really liked.
I want one of these shirts so bad. They're amazing.
The only thing that was correct, was PPG.
Oh, okay.
That was the only one that was like a normal sponsor for reasons I don't understand. Mm-hmm. No, I'm just kidding. I got it all right. It says PPC. Excuse me.
There's an odd through line throughout this episode where, like, at the end of every day, Dick Van Dyke like cooks dinner for his kid and the two doctors. And I don't know why this happens, but every meal is like a shitty meal that like his son hates. Like one night is like mackerel, and his son just picks up like a fish head on his fork. This is how they discuss their daily events over these horrible dinners that Dick Van Dyke is cooking.
Do they all live together? I couldn't figure that out.
They might. It might be a weird commune situation going on.
Yeah.
So discussing dinner
to find out.
Yeah. While discussing this over dinner, they talk about how, they noticed that like Matt's liver was like the wrong temperature, and
cold liver.
Yeah, and they earlier on, like the young doctor who's really psyched on racing, he mentions how tires are kept in like a heated room so that the rubber's more pliable. And this gets Dick thinking
like a trailer.
About some stuff. He thinks someone maybe poisoned him, that he was like dead in the car before the race started, or like he was going to be dead. Then this leads them to figure out that, he was already dead hours ago. This was not Matt Thompson in the car driving. Like, they executed this perfect plan to like win the race and then wreck the car and then go swap the driver out so that they find the dead driver after the race. Like, it is a very, like, so many things have to go right for this plan to actually work, and somehow, of course, they all fucking do.
The hay bales really play a major role in this whole storyline.
Yes. Yeah. So now everybody's in disbelief as to who was actually driving the car. They figure out that like the audio that was played in the car was just audio from the day before, and they were able to somehow splice that into the radio to kind of like, trick people. They have a backup driver and a show car driver. I forget the backup driver's name, but he has an alibi. He's like trying to get a ride with another team, so it wasn't him. They end up going to the garage, and the show car driver is there. And when he kind of puts two and two together. He realizes he's been caught. He picks up a crowbar and is about to bash the fuck out of Dick Van Dyke and his son, but then like stops because his crew chief dad is there and is like, you know, listen, we're caught, son. So they go and explain this whole deal that like they found, Matt Thompson and the show car driver got in a fight the night before, and he only punched him one time, but he killed him. So what they were going to do is, you know, set up this whole scheme to make it seem like Matt died in the car when he actually didn't. But they didn't actually kill him. Like, Dick Van Dyke somehow clears them. Like, listen, he had this blood thinner in his system, which, again, going back to the owner's husband also was on blood thinners, you know, if you're keeping track of us at this point. So there's a connection there. So if it wasn't the crew chief and his son that did this to Matt, who did it? The other crew chief, there's the guy that used to be the crew chief is still on the team, a guy named Lloyd, who used to be a driver, and you know, they thought he was a suspect for a second, but he had all the receipts from another race he was at that night, so he was in the clear. The team owner is pissed off about all this. They find out the engine was sabotaged. Oh, actually, no. When Lloyd gives his receipts, they're testing an engine in the garage, and the engine blows up while they're like testing it. Again, they're testing this engine outside. It's just on a fucking jack stand, basically. Like dyno testing a motor without an actual dyno there doesn't make any sense. Like, this doesn't happen in a real garage, like, at all. So this motor just blows up. We're at another family meal here, but this is when Steve says fuck my dad and his cooking. I'm just gonna make burgers. They're figuring out the motive, and they realize that whoever actually did this knew medicine because of the blood thinner deal. Somehow, because they didn't actually kill the driver, the crew chief and the show car driver are able to get out of this scot-free. They just let him go. Like, even though they like covered up a murder and covered up a dead body, like, nah, they're fine. They let him go. So they're back at the track, and let's see. Now Alan is driving. Who the fuck is Alan? Oh, Alan is the show car driver. Yeah. The car is again sabotaged. They show a clip later that night of like somebody putting something into the motor. So the next day at the track, everybody, like all the doctors, the investigators, everybody is like around this motor testing it. And Dick Van Dyke is talking about how high the motor can rev, up to like 12,000 RPMs, which I don't think I don't think stock cars go up to 12,000 RPMs. So they're like slowly.
Not that one.
No, they're bringing up the throttle in front of the car owner. And the car owner is the only one getting nervous because they all know that the engine was sabotaged. And as the motor is about to blow, the woman like jumps to the floor out of fear because she sabotaged the motor. She knows it's going to explode. So she tries to get out of the way. And then they realize, oh, it was you. Like, we found this motor sabotaged and we did all the math and you're the one who did it. And she admits to doing all this because the driver winning all the races was costing her money. Apparently she sold a bunch of shares of the team to all these other sponsors and like oversold them. So as Matt Thompson was winning more races and doing well, it was costing her more money. So she wanted to kill him to kill the team, so she could stop losing money on this whole deal. So the car owner did it. She killed her own driver. Yet this team was still going, even without the car owner at the end. They're still running races. Doesn't make any sense. And then as a thank you for helping them out, it seems like Steve is going to get back in a race car for the first time in years, but no. Out on the track is Dick Van Dyke himself, and afterwards he's like asking his son, I don't know why you ever got into this. Like, the seat had no padding in it, and my dentures were getting rattled out. So that ended the episode. Overall, just completely insane, convoluted story that would never is impossible to work. Like, no one would ever pull this off. No. But I loved it. It was very fun and very stupid. So, A+ for me. What did you guys think?
Yeah, wonderful piece of television. You summed it up well. This is dog shit. It's absolute dog shit. But it is so entertaining, and just the usage of stock footage from Days of Thunder, which was a pretty common practice back in these days for low budget affairs. You'd see Battlestar Galactica footage used in all sorts of sci-fi stuff, and I don't know how that worked, but I guess they'd license it out and you could use it. And well, they used the hell out of Days of Thunder in this one, and it was the continuity was even worse than Days of Thunder itself. So great little piece of television. As I said previously, my mom used to watch this show. I don't remember this episode, but kind of brought me back to a sick day on the couch in like 7th grade or something like that, because this was on after like Price is Right, I think. I don't know, but yeah, this was good. What'd you think, True Love?
This show is not meant to be a comedy, even though there are humorous moments, but I was dying laughing watching.
If you're a fan of any sort of racing and you watch this and you're not dying laughing the whole time, like, I don't know what's wrong with you.
I feel like we should almost make a ranking system for the shows and movies we've watched. How much involvement from real racing was intertwined with this. As we've already discussed, this one had absolutely zero help from any major racing organization whatsoever. It was about as far-fetched as you could possibly be.
Yeah. But as a drama, it kept me on my toes or as like a murder mystery, because everyone seemed suspicious at one point or another. It really kind of kept you on your toes on trying to figure out who the true murderer was.
Yeah, classic 90s television right here. Yeah.
Yep.
And again, this video, when you do pull it up, it does say it's an hour and 47 minutes long. This episode is not that long.
Yeah.
It's a 2-pack. So if you want more Diagnosis Murder, just keep it locked on, and you'll see them go to a mall or a fucking beach or something. I don't know. I didn't watch it, but I'm sure they do something. Someone dies and they figure it out.
Yep.
Good. Well, I'm glad you guys liked it. I liked it quite a bit, and
good find.
Yes. We already, mentioned him earlier in the show, but continuing our theme of watching TV shows tackle motorsports. Malcolm in the Middle, before he ever met Dale Earnhardt, in 2001, they did an episode about stock car racing, and we're gonna watch that. I think it's called like I think it's just called Stock Car Race.
Yeah, and, something like that.
Apparently a race happens on a Tuesday in this episode.
Yeah, because they take the kids out of school. Yeah. Shout out to Kyle Armstrong for sending this one along. It was a meme that he had come across, I think, or someone had cut up different screenshots of it, and then I immediately sent that to you guys, and then that was tracked down. It's on Hulu. Very excited to watch this, especially since they're running the Malcolm in the Middle truck this weekend at Bristol. It couldn't be more appropriate.
Yeah. It's all working out. And I'll also say, I mean, obviously not this week, but sometime in the future, we're going to have to watch the South Park NASCAR episode.
Yes.
I've never actually seen that.
It's good.
That came out long after I stopped watching South Park, but I've seen the memes and stuff, but I've never actually watched the whole episode. So that is on the list. At some point in the future, we'll be watching that. But this week, it's Malcolm in the Middle. This week is Bristol. All 3 series will be there. So I know I'll be watching that. True Love, you'll be in Nashville on Saturday, but I'm assuming you'll watch as much as you can. You won't be watching the Busch race, though.
I will be in Bristol on Sunday.
Woo!
Oh,
girl,
okay.
You're gonna do it. Hell yeah.
Decided super last minute to, after the Dale Jr. race, maybe drive an hour or 2 closer to Bristol, find a place to sleep, and then get up early and finish the drive to Bristol. So
hell yeah, that's awesome.
That's reminiscent of our monster truck and Bristol trip a few years ago, which we will be covering that at some point.
It's funny that you mentioned that, True Love, because my buddy Ken Bob, he asked me, he listened to last week's episode, and he's like, hell, why ain't True Love going to Bristol too? And I said, I don't know, and you are, so take that, bud.
Yeah, how far is Bristol from Nashville?
It's only 4 hours.
That's still a lot, but
it is still
doable.
a lot, but
yeah.
Stop at JV's NASCAR outlet on I-40.
I think that's gone now. I think that closed last year. Yeah. Because I remember seeing something about that. But I always forget how big Tennessee is. Because I remember wanting to go to Memphis one time. I was like, oh, it's like 4 hours.
Very long.
It's long.
Yeah.
Multiple time zones.
Yeah. So, yeah, True Love will be at all sorts of places while Rob will be at the Icebreaker. And I will not be doing anything this weekend race-wise. So I'll just be watching all
take all the notes because you'll have to cover it.
Yeah, I'll have the NASCAR races covered for sure. So cool. Well, as always, you can follow us on Instagram at meetmeatapplebees. Same deal for YouTube. I am Speedway Screens and all the things. SpeedwayTSJ.etsy.com is the shop, and MMA Applebees at checkout for 15% off.
Yep, still Snakebound True Love. I'll try to post. I'm sure I'll post a bunch of stories this weekend from my Nashville shenanigans in Bristol. The service sucks.
You getting into anything else besides racing? You gonna go to that little pre-party at Tootsie's that the car store's having?
Well, that's on Thursday night. We're not getting there that early, so Tootsie's is too expensive. I'd rather go to Robert's.
Yep, that's the correct answer.
Yep.
Rob Motes _unofficial. My band's called These Wild Plains. Also, you can check out Charlie Horsey on Instagram. That's Charlie Marie's Instagram. Her new single dropped last Friday. Lots of good feedback coming from that. Very proud of that record and proud of Chuck for the song she put together and for just being a fucking ridiculously talented person. And looking forward to playing those songs live. We'll have some shows to announce at some point in the near future, but for now, go on and check that single out wherever you listen to music. I'll be out at Thompson this weekend, so come have a nip with me. And because they sell Fireball nips at the track. So you can sneak your own in. You don't have to pay $5 for a nip. Just sneak your own in. They'll never know the difference between the two. So yeah, I'll be purchasing $5 nips is what I'm saying, and you can have one with me at the Icebreaker this weekend.
You gonna wear your sweatshirt that I got you?
If it's cold enough, absolutely. It's supposed to be in the low 60s this weekend, which is gonna feel like summer heat. So I'll be out there in a tank top, most likely. You got to get it when you can in the spring. It snowed today, so.
Yeah, it was like 30 today, so I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, finally looks like we have a weekend at Thompson where weather is not going to be a threat. Usually by now there's going to be some inkling of a problem if there's going to be one, but the forecast looks very nice. So maybe it's a little overcast at most, but yeah, we deserve a good one after the past few years.
Looks good down here too. Normally spring Bristol's a little rainy, but there's no rain in the forecast.
Yeah, 70s. You'll be loving that. So
perfect.
Enjoy. Cool. Well, with that, looks like the check is here. So thanks for joining us again at Applebee's, and we'll talk to you all next week.